We got to go the distance on this topic because Joe Burrow's pockets are a lot longer. $275 million, reportedly after signing a 5-year deal. That's $55 million annually, jumping Justin Herbert by $2.5 million annually. But get this, $219 million guaranteed.
Right now? Like, give it to him right now?
Give it to him. Don't matter. In his pockets. Give it to him.
He got real gangster. Didn't he get gangster with that one?
Man.
That's a gangster contract right there.
209. You know, the craziest part about it, and I think the Bengals have been intentional this whole time. We didn't talk much about it because we were off the crib waiting for the game to go down, but nobody, Joy, ever talked about the contract. Not Burrow, not Burrow's agents, not the Bengals. And then right before opening kickoff of opening night, NFL Thursday, you just get a tweet.
Yeah.
Like, that to me, it was all calculated. It was like, this is going to be the smallest big story ever, but we got to make a big deal of it. What's your reaction?
Yeah, I mean, JoJo listened to Joy. He said, you know what, Joy, I heard you up here talking, but I ain't going to make a big deal. I'm just going to go behind the scenes. Hey, I ain't going to play. I ain't finna tweet nothing out, none of that.
I ain't going to be there.
But I ain't going to be there. But no, I mean, obviously, this is well-deserved. You talk about a dude that was drafted #1 overall. Usually, when you drafted #1 overall, that means you're going to the worst team in the National Football League.
Sir.
He has had this team in the Super Bowl. He's had this team in the AFC Championship game twice. Well-deserved. He earned that bread. And I'm glad it's done because we need JoJo Burrow on the football field playing football because it's better for the National Football League. But we all know he earned every penny of that.
Yes, thank you for listening, Joe. I don't need it. I don't even need a percentage. I'm just happy to watch you play. You don't get on that field without a deal, and it got done. And hey, they had to sell some lake houses. I see why it took so long. Go ahead and list that one and that one because that is a lot of guaranteed money. And good for him. He deserves it. I mean, look, these deals keep going up, and they're going to continue to go up as they always do. And as the salary cap goes up, which it will again, they'll go up even more. But he deserves it. He's come in, as James said, to a team that we didn't think much of at all. That was a very bad team. Turn the organization around. He's a generational player. It's very rare to find guys that can come in and take a team like the Cincinnati Bengals to the Super Bowl. We weren't talking about that. There was not even a dream. So I don't want to hear what anyone says. So what he's done is remarkable. He deserves all of it. And the other part is, I mean, it just shows you how ain't nobody worried about that Deshaun deal. Ain't nobody talking about that deal. No, we're gonna come down. We're gonna come down from that number because that is not a deal that anyone else is interested in signing. And if anyone was gonna get it done, it's him. And the fact that he is still under that guaranteed money shows you what an outlier that deal is.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. Joe Burrow deserves every cent. Right? He probably he needs a little bit more. He deserves a little bit more of that money. I mean, it's how good he's played and what he's done for that franchise. I've never looked at the Bengals franchise as like a winning franchise. Nowadays, it's like, hey, who's going to win the AFC? The Chiefs, but I don't know, them Bengals. And that's the new conversation. So I just love that they got the deal done. And not for 1 second, I thought that he would play without getting the deal. Right? I think Lamar Jackson, that was rare because you don't ever really see that, especially with the quarterbacks. You look at Bosa. He made sure he got his money before he played. Most players going to get a deal done before they step out on that field. And that's what he did.
Shady, I would submit. I would submit, you know, for y'all's listening attention, that Joe Burrow could deserve more money than any player in football.
No question.
Because Joe Burrow has taken his team a further distance than any player in football. He hasn't taken his team to a further destination. That is Patrick Mahomes, the Super Bowl. But Joe Burrow has taken his team a further distance than any player. From 2 wins to a Super Bowl. From the worst team in football to the second best team in football. Joe Burrow got drafted after a 2-14 season. And 2 years later, Joe Burrow was in the Super Bowl. For context, Patrick Mahomes, remember, was on a wild card team, a 10-win, 12-win on average Chiefs team. He took that 10-win team to the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow took a 2-win team to a Super Bowl. Joe Burrow has taken a team a further distance than any other player, not a further destination. I do understand the clarification. I hope you can as well. But I would suggest that Joe Burrow could be worth more money than any player, including Pat, just because of that distance traveled. I was drafted to the Browns. Shady, you were drafted to the Eagles. The Eagles are a well-run franchise. I was drafted to the Browns, not a well-run franchise. I know how hard it is because I have seen so many quarterbacks come and go to that porous organization. So to see what Joe Burrow has done, it's just so astonishing to me.
I'm gonna need 30.
Take a quick 30.
Listen, I love Joe Burrow, right? I love watching him. I respect this game.
Yes, sir.
From LSU all the way to the Bengals. And listen, 219 guarantee, he needs more than that. I get that. 275 overall, I agree. He needs more than that. But hold up. We're not gonna sit here and act like he's more deserving than Patrick Mahomes.
No, I
get what you were saying, but like when you said, you know what I mean? It just, for me to hear that, it's like, whoa, I can't.
It just didn't sound good.
Patrick Mahomes, listen, they are different, right?
course.
And Joe is very close.
Yes.
But he's not there yet.
No, and I'm not saying he is.
Okay.
I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying I would suggest what Joe Burrow has done, and it might sound crazy to those at home, but I was in Cleveland, so I would suggest what Joe Burrow has done is just as impressive.
100%.
Like it's just like the Bengals were so bad. It's really just
I don't know why we always got to compare.
No, I'm not. It's just as impressive with what anybody's done.
Yeah, and
don't even make it
I
Pat
get what
with
you're saying.
anybody's done.
It's no knock on Pat, right? We easily can sit here and say that Pat is the best quarterback in the NFL. Even JoJo said
no
that,
questions,
right?
no questions.
But at the end of the day, when you look at what he has done,
I love it.
for this organization, that's when you can start saying like, "Ooh, you can compare." You talk about 2 wins to the Super Bowl.
I get it.
And who'd you beat to get to the Super Bowl?
I understand that, bro.
You get what I'm saying? And then you talking about getting back to another AFC championship. And right now, when you look at AFC, you saying Joey B, or you saying Patty Mahomes?
But is it
you
as
can't
impressive?
say that because what Patty has done. You talking about MVP.
I just want to get that wording right. Okay.
2 Super Bowls. But being #1 overall, and in 3 years, 4 years, what you haven't accomplished, bruh, this dude changed that whole thing around.
Before we pivot, I kind of think about, like, as a #1 overall pick, you might have to go back to Peyton. Because I'm thinking about, like, Baker, Jameis, Goff in Los Angeles.
This is pretty good.
Marcus Russell.
This is pretty good. No, go ahead. This is pretty good.
Marcus.
Who are the #1s at quarterback? Like
Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray. Yeah. You might have to go back to Andrew Luck. You really might have to go Alex Smith. Yeah. You might have to go back to Peyton Manning to find Cam Newton. Cam's a really good one. Cam's a really good one. But Stafford in Detroit.
But immediately turning this thing around. Oh, Peyton took a little while.
Carson Palmer.
Carson, he's a number
Cam is probably the closest.
Cam's probably the closest recent. Obviously Eli Manning, but the Giants weren't as bad. So it's really astonishing. It's just astonishing.
Isn't it like so much more money than you would make in college? So like, don't you think you probably want to go to the NFL and get $219 million to turn around a team that's on 2 wins?
Absolutely.
I don't know. I think I'd want to try it.
$8 million in 219.
It's just a little bit.
A little gap, slightly.
Joy, on Sunday, we will see the 2 highest paid at the position.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow, Deshaun Watson, 219 guaranteed, 230 guaranteed. On Sunday, we will see 2 of the top quarterbacks in the AFC, Burrow, Watson, given a lot of money, given a lot of responsibility. But I got to ask you, who then is under more pressure? Burrow, Watson?
I mean, Deshaun, it's not close. I mean, they're close in money now, so obviously if you want to measure who's under the most pressure because of the most money, fine. I don't need to do that. They're both very highly paid. But Joe Burrow is just in a different class. It's just, I can't even listen to an argument. What did we just all talk about? Deshaun was drafted very high to an organization that wasn't doing well. They did not reach the Super Bowl. They were not doing what Joe Burrow and the Bengals are doing. So he's in a position now where he had a lot of time off from the game, came back, didn't look great, but we all gave him a mulligan on it because of the circumstances. Well, that's gone now. Yep. The excuses are off the table. Now you have the opportunity to do what Joe Burrow did with the Cincinnati Bengals in the same division. This is a very talented team. This is a team that won a playoff game with Baker Mayfield, who is now on his 4th team. You're paid $230 million. You were outbid. The Browns outbid other teams to bring you in here, took PR hits and everything else to get their quarterback in the building. Now it's time to deliver. We know what Joe Burrow is. We know what he can accomplish. And he's obviously just been paid as such. We have to see what Deshaun Watson's going to do with his Browns team.
Yeah, I think all the pressure is on Deshaun Watson. We got to see it. I mean, from the old Deshaun Watson with the Texans, he looked good. He looked great, right? I thought that, man, this kid's going to potentially compete with Patrick Mahomes for that spot. Now, if you take all those 2 Super Bowls, I mean, it's a different story, but just as a talent level, now we get to this point where we watched him last year, he didn't look good at all. Yeah. But I give him an excuse. I give him a pass. Right? He hasn't played football for a very long time. He didn't have a true full all-season or an all-season to really work with his team. But now that you have full all-season, you're healthy, you work with the team, You're with the offense. It's your show. We got to see it. And all the pressure is on Deshaun Watson because that team is loaded on defense and on offense.
Shady, give me a slogan. What?
What are we talking about?
What are we talking about, man? All the pressure is on Deshaun Watson. 230 guaranteed. I'm telling you right now, Joe Burrow special. Joe can come out here and this team can go 8-7 or whatever it is, 17 games now, and not make the playoffs. And we're going to sit here and say, Joey B going to be back next year.
I will say that.
We have that much confidence in him. We don't have that much confidence in Deshaun Watson right now. If he goes out here with this Browns team, with a loaded roster, and does not make the playoffs, and you got 230 M's guaranteed, what are we talking about? You have to get this franchise 2+ playoff wins, right? You have to take this franchise to where Joey B has taken the Cincinnati Bengals, and that's to a Super Bowl.
That's right.
All the pressure is on Deshaun Watson. We gave you 230 M's because we seen what you did in Houston. That has to show up in Cleveland, and it hasn't yet. We know what Joey B gonna be. We don't know what you are going to be in Cleveland. We knew what you were in Houston. We don't know what you're gonna be in Cleveland. All the pressure
James,
is on Deshaun
let me ask you a
Watson.
follow-up. Not driving into work. When I arrived at work today, I was watching a track meet because Sharika Jackson, a Jamaican superstar, said she was going for the 200-meter record. She said she was going for it. So I stopped what I was doing, picked up my phone, downloaded the app, and I watched. She didn't get it.
Yeah.
I was like, man, well, that was a waste. Not realizing she ran the 4th fastest time in the history of women running the 200 meters. Prisoner of her own success. We thought you were going to get a world record, so when you run the 4th fastest time, should be celebrating. Instead, I'm like,
Yeah.
Could Burrow become a prisoner of his own success in the sense that every year he's been healthy, he's gone to an AFC Championship game? $275 million now. We know how good the Bengals are. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Boyd, Joe Mixon. That's just on the offensive end. On the defensive end, 2 pass rushers, 8+ sacks. Is there the pressure of Joe Burrow because of how good he's been? Whereas Deshaun hasn't been good on a good team since 2019. Is there that? Is there any of that?
Well, absolutely, right? Because you're putting JoJo Burrow up there with the greats, right? The Patty Mahomes, right? The Aaron Rodgers. There's nothing else that matters for Joe Burrow than winning a Super Bowl. We are not going to be surprised at Joe Burrow for anything he does in the National Football League unless he wins a Super Bowl. He's took you to the AFC Championship. He took you to Super Bowl. He changed around the whole organization. So the Patty Mahomes, just like Patty, you go and win 2 playoff games and lose, that ain't good enough, Pat.
Yeah.
You know, strictly because the standard that you have set is the same for Joe. It ain't good enough, Joe. We need Super Bowls, right? We need to get to the Super Bowl game. We need to be up in that contention every single year if you're under center, right? With Deshaun Watson, he has not even got close to sniffing that. You know what I'm saying? So he's definitely not in Joe Burrow's category when you talk about that. So, yes, Joe Burrow has done that to himself with all the success he's had in Cincinnati.
Joy, what's more important, Deshaun Watson play well tomorrow and this season, or the Browns win games? Because the AFC we know is loaded. Deshaun Watson led the league in passing. Shady brings this up often, 2020. But the Houston Texans were 4-12. Deshaun Watson was phenomenal in 2020, but his team lost. What's more important this year? Deshaun show he's Deshaun, or the Browns win games regardless?
I think it's Browns win games. I mean, who cares if that's the difference? Who cares at this point? He's been paid. So it's not like he has to be the reason that they win in order for him to get paid or any of that. If they win games, it doesn't really matter what he looks like because he's in the building regardless because of that contract. But this, just on the micro sense, I don't think for this game this weekend, like, somebody's got to lose. I know they can tie, but, like, someone's probably going to lose this game, right? And it's not going to be the end of the world unless Deshaun Watson doesn't look good. That's the difference. The Bengals have struggled to start the season last year, and we're fine. If Deshaun comes out and looks anything like he did last year and they lose, it's going to be a problem.
Well, let's keep it 100, too. If he don't play well, they're going to lose.
Yeah.
So he got to go out there and beat Deshaun Watson.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak, and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.